Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning about the distance formula and you will be able to do 11.2. Today, students will be able to find the distance between 2 points by using the distance formula. So, one of the points for which you're going to be finding the distance is 2, 3. Well, it's right here. Coordinate 2, 3, and 5, -1. So how do you find the distance of those 2 points? Well, 2, 3 is right, 2 on X, 3 on Y, right there. And then 5, -1, 5, -1, it's right there. So it's not easy to see, like if this point was here, we could see that it's 4 units away. Right, but in here it's diagonal, so we can't really count the units. So what is that distance? And so this is going to be related to a topic that you might have seen already before, and what you can use to find that is, I don't know if you have seen the Pythagorean Theorem, which is, the Pythagorean says that when you add the square of the 2 sides, the square of the 2 sides is equal to the square of this side. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In class, when I taught that, I asked them to, so that it would help them memorize it. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, and what does that mean? It means that if you were to find the area of a square formed by this side, if you notice, this area is equals to 9 unit squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or the other way that you can do it is just multiply base times height, which is 9. The area of this one is 16, because 4 times 4 is 16. And so that means that the area for this, and it's not going to be perfect, but the area for this side should be the addition of these 2 squares. So 16 plus 9 is equals to 25. And okay, if this is 9, the area is 9, this is 3. The area in here is 16, the side is 4. So if the area in here is 25, that means that the side is going to be 5. Okay, so the distance of that line is going to be 5. Now, somehow mathematicians notice that, okay, this side is just subtracting one of the y's minus the other y. So I'll show you how it derives for the formula. So let me give you the formula first. The distance formula, to find that in a different way, derives from this a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so the distance formula is the square root. And then I said, if you want to memorize it, just put d equals square root, put 2 parentheses with the squares over there, the plus in the middle. So people keep saying, okay, 2 eyes, these are the eyelashes, and then you're gonna have minus in there. Okay, so it's like 2 eyes with eyelashes. And the last part that you need to remember is y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And I'll explain where those come from, okay? So, let me see, how does that relate to this here? if you think about it, and let me show you more direct. Again, we're not going to be using this, but I don't want you to feel like, what? In case you were to ask this. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared refers to one of the sides, so it will be 4 squared plus the other side, which is 3 squared equals, we didn't know the distance of that line, so we put c squared. 4 squared would be 16, 3 squared would be 9, and c squared we don't know. 16 plus 9 is 25, is equals to c squared. We take the square root of both sides. Okay, this is the Pythagorean theorem. And so the square root of 25, some of you already know that it's 5. But if you don't know, you can just go to the calculators, put the number in, and then press the square root. Okay, so the answer is 5. So how does that relate to this? Well, when we start looking at this, I think it'll make more sense. Okay, so let's have that on the side. The distance formula. So we have d is equals to the square root of, okay, this is going to stay the same. This also stays the same. The only thing that we have to input is now the variables. And which one matches which? When we have a 2 and a 1, it just refers to 0.1 and 0.2. So this is going to be 0.1, so it's going to be x1, y1. Okay, so that little one doesn't mean anything else than belongs to 0.1. Then the second point, we have x2, y2. Again, the 1 is for 0.1, the 2 is for 0.2. And so in here, we just start looking, okay, first is y2 minus y1, so it's y2, oh, the value is -1. Minus from the formula, and then y1, we go and look that the y1 is 3, so we put that value in there. Then we go in here and it says x2, so x2 is 5, minus x1, we go and see that x1 is 2. And from there on, all you have to do is start simplifying following PEMDAS. Parentheses first, exponents then, and finally the addition. Okay, so my distance is equals to the square root of, what is in this parentheses? -1 minus 3 becomes -4. We bring the square. 5 minus 2, 3, and we bring down the square. After that, we take the square root again. We're just bringing down the square root. That's the last thing we're going to do. And so -4 squared, be careful in here. -4 to the second power means multiplying that number times itself. How many times? 2 times. And so negative times negative becomes positive, and 4 times 4 becomes 16. Okay, so -4 squared is equals to 16. Plus 3 squared is 9. Okay, so all I did was raise 3 to the second power, -4 to the second power. Now I'm going to add 16 plus 9, which is 25. Oh, if you notice, there are some things going on that are very similar, right? And so d is equals to the square root of 25 is 5. So there are 2 different ways of doing this. We're not going to be using the Pythagorean theorem, but it's just so you can see where that distance formula comes from. This 4 squared is just the distance of one of the sides, and the 9 squared, the 3 squared, I'm sorry, is the distance of the other side. Okay, let's do one more. So we have 0.13 and 6 -3. You can graph it if you want to, but it's not necessary because we know that it's going to be a diagonal line, and we just can plug in our formula. Remember, 2i with eyelashes, the nose in the middle, which is a plus, and then the pupils are kind of like sleepy, so that's why 2 little lines. Okay, and then remember it's gonna be y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Somebody in class asked me, can we have the x's in here and the y in here? And I say, sure. The only reason for which I'm putting it in this order is because just the order, you can relate it to slope, and that's what we're gonna be looking at next. So the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So, but most definitely, as long as you keep the 2 first and the 1 second, or the same order, okay? So D is equals to, again, this is x1, y1, x2, y2, and so we start plugging in numbers. So it's going to be y2 is -3 minus from here, and then y1 is 3. Somebody said, but why is that negative? I said, it's not negative, it's the minus from the formula, okay? This is negative because the y2 is negative, but this minus comes from the formula, okay? And just bring down in here the y1. Okay, x2 is 6 minus from the formula, and then x1 is 1. Okay, and I just noticed that I am missing the eyelashes on this one. Okay, so -3 minus 3 is -6 squared, plus, remember that if we have two negatives, we add them and keep the sign. 6 minus 1 is 5 squared. And the next step is to actually square it. Remember that when you square a negative, it becomes positive. So -6 times -6, positive 36. 5 times 5 is 25. And we get 61. We go to our calculator. And so we're going to put 61. Press the square root, and my answer is, you can decide to round it to the nearest hundredths or the nearest tenths, since there are no instructions, but I'm gonna just keep it as tenths. So 7.8, and so that's gonna be the distance between these 2 points. Okay, let me do one more. And for the sake of the lesson, we're going to put that as -3 instead of 9.3. So again, the distance formula is equals to square root the eyes with the eyelashes and the nose, and then don't forget the pupils. And we have y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Okay, remember that this is x1 and y1 because it's 0.1, x2, y2 because it's point number 2. Again, in here it doesn't matter if you get x's first and then y's, but keep the same order. Okay, so the square root of, I think I'm gonna put the numbers in orange so that you see something in here. So I'm gonna put everything that needs to be put in there. That stays the same. All I'm doing in the next step is to replace or substitute the values of each position. Okay, so y2, what is the value of y2? 0. Minus y1, what is the value of y1? It's -3. -3. Okay, and I'm writing this in a different color so that you can see that you end up with two different negatives. One from the formula and one because the number is negative. x2, we'll put 4, and x1 is going to be 9. Okay, again, some people say like, what does that mean? 1 is from the formula, and 1 is because the number for that variable is negative. Okay, so whenever you have a negative in here, you're going to end up with 2 negatives, 1 from the formula, 1 from the number. Okay, so now I'm going to start simplifying, and if you remember, two negatives together, some people say, don't you need a parenthesis? And I said, some books have it, but then this will become brackets. But it just means when you have two negatives together, you just multiply them. They become negative times negative is positive. And so you end up with 0 plus 3. The answer is 3. And then we're going to square it. Plus 4 minus 9, negative 5. Square that as well. You can also notice that in here, I did not put parentheses. And the reason is because this is a positive number. In here, I put a parenthesis because this is a negative number. And I want to square the whole number, the negative 5. If I don't put the parentheses in here, then that means that I'm only squaring the 5, and the negative you would have to bring it down. Okay, again, parentheses because there is a negative, no parentheses because it's positive. Okay, 3 squared is 9 plus negative 5 squared is 25. And I want to explain again that when this number is even, this is going to be positive. And the reason is because you multiply that number times itself 2 times. And then negative times negative is positive. And 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, so the answer is positive. D is equals to the square root of 9 plus 25 is 34. And I go to my calculator, and I'm going to press the number and put the square root. I know that for some calculators, first you press the square root, and then the number, and then equal. Okay, so you have to check how your calculator works, what the order is, so that you can try. Okay, so the answer is 5.8. So that's the distance of 9, negative 3 and 4, 0. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. I hope you have fun.